Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about multipens. They are probably my favourite kind of writing implement. I've been using them on and off for years. I have previously done a blog post about them, which I will leave a link in the description because it's about 4.5 years old now, so there are different pens in there. So just in case you want to kind of read about a few more that are available, I'll leave that link. But today I thought I would just go through the pens that are still in my stash, the ones that I reach for, the ones that I've added to recently, and kind of, yeah, just go through what I like, what I don't like, what my favourites are, and probably touch on the Tomoe River paper piece because there's different inks in here and some play well with it and some don't. And so to kick it off, kind of an overview of the pens. So a few of these you may already notice are basically the same pen but with different barrels, and you can probably get an idea of what are my favourite multi-pens. So to kick off, we do have quite a lot of the Pilot Coleto. These are a few different barrels. This is a gel ink, primarily in here in a few different sizes. I think this was probably the first multi-pen that I started using, obviously except for the OG Bic one that I'm sure all of us had in various forms growing up, the old ballpoint pen one. But yeah, this is, I think probably this I've had for nearly 10 years at this point. So yeah, I have accrued quite a few over time. We then have the Hobonichi pen, as I'm going to call it, which is basically a uni Jetstream, which, so same refill, go in here, and this is the one that you get free with the Hobonichi, and then this is one of the kind of proper versions that I bought in Japan. I do have a green one, but I keep that at work. We then have, so this I purchased in Japan. I hadn't heard of it before, but it's a Pilot Juice Up. I do love Pilot Juice pens, so I was like, yeah, gonna have to try this, you know, for science, because I love the juice so much. We then have this, which is a Zebra Sarasa Clip. Again, Sarasa, really great pen, spoke of very highly in kind of pen circles, you know what I mean. So again, for science, had to try that. And then this is one that I've had since the OG blog post. This is by Platinum, and this is just a kind of standard ballpoint pen. So this is kind of the most ballpoint penish of the lot. And yeah, those are the ones that I kind of have in general circulation at the moment, I guess. What I've done is to kind of go through each of them in a bit more detail, really, is I've basically just done kind of a bit of a swatch page in my cousin for each of them, to then kind of talk through them in a bit more kind of focus, I guess. So to kick off, the Pilot Coleto, so like I said, I've had these for years. I've got various different barrels. They, you know, the joy of this pen is it really is, you know, completely customizable. There's different barrels, so I've got a few examples here of, so this is a this is a 3 colour barrel. We've got a 4 colour barrel, just in kind of a see-through colour. There's then see-through colour, you know what I mean, it is see-through, and then they have kind of coloured versions of it, and then they have ones like this, which is a it's a very old collab, but they have lots of different kind of designs. This one I don't like as much. This is a 4 colour barrel, but it's quite thick in comparison to the regular one, and I don't like a big pen. I find this more uncomfortable to write with than this, just the shape of it, the way it's got the kind of grip on there. I much prefer these. Are a lot nicer to write with. So this, I have it loaded, but I very rarely reach for it. But yeah, massive selling point in that you can just kind of mix and match with loads of different choice. Then in terms of the inks as well, so there's 3 different sizes of refill. You've got a 0.5, a 0.4, and then 0.3, which is this one here, you can tell by that. They've also got, which I discovered when I was in Japan, that they do now have metallic refills. So that's these 2 here. I think they're only a 0.4 if I remember rightly. And then they also have pencil and eraser refills, so that's what I've got in here. I've got a pencil on here and an eraser, and then my 2 metallics. So in terms of just being able to really kind of pull together the most convenient pen for all the different use cases you would need, it's just brilliant for that. So my kind of general go-to would be kind of a kind of plain black ink, a pencil, an eraser, and then another colour for kind of, you know, highlighting or just adding flourishes or something. You can get all of that in one pen and not have to worry about having to basically carry anything else other than, you know, maybe a ruler. I love that, and I love that you can just mix and match and have it however you want. You know, I've just got a nice colourful one here for just if I really want to do kind of full-on colourful spreads. I then just have a basic one here with my black zing. Yeah, just you can't fault it as a kind of concept, as a setup, the look, the design of it, the choice, and then the actual kind of writing. Again, like if you've been using pens for a while, you'll know that, let's face it, Pilot is probably one of the best. And I definitely grew up using, you know, like Pilot G2s and G1s and things like that. And so I knew I was getting a good writing experience with the Coleto when I first bought it. This is just some of the, you can see weird shadows, apologies, but this is just some of the inserts that I've got currently. So a few different sizes. So we've got the metallic in here that may or may not be picking up well on camera. They're a 0.4. There's then just the 0.3 pencil. Then we've got a 0.5, which is just the black, and then a 0.3. I used to find the 0.3 scratchy. I'd still probably go for the 0.4 over anything else, because there is still a little bit of a scratchiness to them. The writing is just so much smoother on a 0.4 in comparison. The 0.5 is a lot smoother to write with again, but what I find, particularly with the Tomoe River paper, that the 0.5 just never quite dries on this paper. So when I was using my weeks, kind of when I first started planning in Hobonichi and I was using a Pilot Coleto, I needed to use a 0.4 or a 0.3 because the ink just kind of sat on the page. Let's see, it's actually, maybe that's one thing that the Sanzen paper has actually got right, in that it does actually dry. But certainly what I used to find back in the early days of the weeks is that I would write on this and then I would leave it for hours and it would still end up smudging. When I come back to write on it, it just, particularly the 0.5, it would just never ever dry. The 0.4 was pretty much okay, the 0.3 was fine. And so I have, although I love this pen, and obviously I have quite a lot of them, it is definitely something that I don't use as much just because it has previously in the past not played well with the Tomoe River paper. I'm just going to do a, yeah, okay. Ooh, maybe I should bring the Coletos back into my Hobonichi. This is, we've got a win for the Sanzen paper guys, that the Coletos work properly again. I might try and dig out some of my old weeks just to kind of maybe insert some pictures of kind of what used to happen with the ink, because you definitely used to be able to just open up the page days later and still see the kind of wetness of the ink. It was very weird. So yeah, it's, my preference is definitely 0.4, and just the choice and variety, just it ticks a load of boxes when it comes to having a pen to hand. Just going to show you, as we're talking about Sanzen paper, again, another plus point for the 0.4 is basically no bleed through. So you can see the black, the 0.5, there is definitely just pockets of bleed, whereas 0.3, in fact, actually the 0.3, weirdly, there's like a small amount of bleed, which is probably not coming up, but these 0.4 metallics, perfect. So yeah, as you can probably tell, I really love this pen. What I am going to say is the big problem with this pen is it's never really taken off, certainly in the UK. So all of these I've either ordered online or bought in Japan. Generally in this country I've had to order from either, I think Cute Things in Japan probably was where my first order was from. But post that, I think refills now I basically have to get off eBay, which is such a shame because I think it would actually do really well. I'm not too sure in America. I feel like it just doesn't get really spoken about as a pen that much at all. So I do feel like it suffered from not being outside of Japan, whereas you go into kind of a Toyo or a Loft or any of those places and they have full stands of refills and barrels. So it's very much still, you know, an alive part of Pilot's lineup. But yeah, it just hasn't really done much outside of Japan, which is a real shame because it's a lovely pen, and I feel like potentially if it was a little bit easier to get refills, I might have kind of dipped back into them a lot sooner, because yeah, those metallics that I bought last year in Japan, probably the first refills I've bought for these for years. Okay, enough of me talking about the Coleto because that's probably been long enough. Let's move on to the Juice Up. So this is, I think I will leave links where I can find all of these pens in the description. So if you do have any queries around kind of different colours and things that may be available, I'll try and kind of get as much info as possible. But I picked this up in a stationery store in Japan. I didn't recall seeing much choice in terms of barrels or different colours. I couldn't really see a huge amount in the way of refills. So I guess if you want something super customizable from Pilot, you're probably looking at the Coleto. But like I said in the intro, I do love a Pilot Juice. It's a lovely writing gel pen, and so I had to pick this up just to kind of try. The pen itself, it's a 0.4. It writes really nicely. I think the only downside really is the colours are a bit bland. Black, blue and red is kind of okay. And if you can't really get hold of a load of different inserts refills, then yeah, this is very much a pen for someone who does just use kind of, I guess, the basic inks. If you want something a bit more out there, again, go Coleto. Yeah, no complaints with how it writes. The ink is good. It seems to work really well on the Tomoe River paper. The bleed through situation, basically there isn't any. So yeah, good, nice little pen. You know, if you just want in a simple multi-pen that is relatively inexpensive, that writes well, it's a great pen. You can probably tell that there's a book coming. The style of it is just a bit bland. It reminds me of the Pentel Sleazy multi-pen, which I wasn't a huge fan of. I don't have it today because I did destash it years ago because it doesn't write very well. But yeah, just the styling of it's a bit bland. I'm not a huge fan of the colour. It just, yeah, I do like my stationery to look pretty. This one doesn't, but it's a great functional pen if you want a gel pen and, you know, you don't need lots of out there colours, you just want something simple. It's a great pen, can't fault it. Next, we will go on to the other gel pen Japan purchase, and this is the Sarasa Clip. Again, this is 3 colours, just like the Pilot one, although as you can see, it is potentially you can see on camera that it is a slightly wider barrel. So if you're like me and you like a smaller pen, you will probably find, like I did, that this is just probably a little bit too chunky to comfortably write with. It has got the kind of rubberized kind of grip though, so it has got that element to it. So if you kind of compare it to the Coleto that's wide, that doesn't have that, at least you have kind of got the good grip on it. But yeah, probably a bit too thick for me. Once again, simple colours. Again, 0.4, so these are basically just dupes of each other. I think it probably comes down to which ink you prefer, but really there's no difference. They write the same thickness, same colours. For me, it would just be preferring this because it's slightly smaller and a bit easier to write with. What I would say though is that the barrel on this, although I don't like the styling, it's not amazing. It does just feel a little bit higher quality. It just feels a little bit better, well made. You know, this sometimes when you write, you can kind of hear the bits rattling inside. That just makes it feel a little bit cheap. Whereas this, it at least feels a bit more sturdy, a bit more solid. But again, yeah, nice basic pen, limited choice of colours, but writes nicely. Good ink that plays well on the paper. For me, it would just be whether you prefer kind of a thicker barrel or a thinner between these two. Next, we're going to move on to probably more of a standard ballpoint pen effectively. So this is from Platinum. So Platinum, I don't really have much from Platinum other than the Preppy. So the Platinum Preppy is a wonderful fountain pen. I've got a couple of these. They are very cheap, very inexpensive, but they write beautifully. So because I love that fountain pen so much, I was kind of expecting big things from this. And again, it's in the same ballpark as here in terms of these ones around. It's a nice solid pen. Very basic in terms of the colours. So you get a black, you get a red, and then this comes with a pencil and an eraser on top. So a very cool little touch. For me, this is basically the upgrade from, I guess, the Bic ballpoint that I had growing up. It's very simple, quite professional looking, quite smart looking. It ticks a lot of boxes. You know, it's got a couple of colours of ink, it's got a pencil, it's got a eraser on the end. This for me feels like a great work pen for someone who may need to kind of sketch some things or take some quick notes that they want to take in pencil that they then, you know, want to be able to rub out. For me, this is the more kind of grown-up version of this that I've got set up, basically, with, yeah, just more basic colours. I think the only complaint really with this is that it's a 0.5mm. I used to write with 0.5 and then my writing has started to shrink, and so I do tend to kind of, yeah, reduce down now. So like I was saying with the Coleto, I generally only use 0.4 now, which started off because it played well or played better with the paper. Now I am just kind of used to that smaller nib, and generally with ballpoint pens anyway, a 0.5 does feel quite thick in comparison even to a 0.5 gel in my experience. So I have this in my Filofax. I just use it to kind of take quick notes in there and update bits in there because it's nice and slim. So that is one thing, because sometimes the Filofax pen loops are disgustingly tiny. So this is a great pen for that, in that it will just kind of go anywhere in most pen loops. So, you know, this would be a great one if you've got kind of an EDC planner or kind of wallet / EDC like I've got, because you've got a couple of different ink choices, pencil and eraser in one kind of handy, nice looking barrel. Yeah, there's not much more to say on this. It's obviously a ballpoint, so the ink plays perfectly fine on this Tomoe River paper. And yeah, it's kind of a, if you want a nice pen for work that just gives you a couple of different colours and a couple of different options, recommend this all day long as you're happy with a 0.5 barrel or a 0.5 insert, refill. I don't know why I keep calling them inserts, but yeah, as long as you're happy with that, this is a great little pen for that, really. Although I would say, although this is quite an old pen, the writing, and I think that's probably because I'm just used to gel pens now, but the writing is definitely not as smooth as with the gel pens in a ballpoint. But I think that's just a general kind of ballpoint thing for me. I have yet to find a ballpoint that always writes perfectly smooth every time, but that's just a side note. And then finally, Uniball Jetstream. So these are, so when I say Uni Jetstream, I'm talking about this pen. So this is the 4+1. So sorry, I am going to say it again, but I picked this up in Japan, but I do have the green version that isn't bamboo here that I've had for a little while that I ordered online, and I use that at work. This is an excellent combo. You get 4 colours, and then this is a pencil, and then here on the end, much like the Platinum, when the lid comes off, there's an eraser. So in terms of having so many things all in one package, this pen is brilliant. If you are a fan of the Platinum but want, you know, a few more colour choices, or if you are a fan of the Coleto but you don't want pure gel ink, this is absolutely the pen for you, because the ink that comes in here is, I can't remember what they call it, but it's basically kind of, it's not quite ballpoint and it's not gel, it's kind of an in-between. I will find kind of what the official name for it is, but it's basically, I think, like a hybrid ink. So if you have a look at the page, it kind of, it's just nicer and smoother than the ballpoint. It plays really well on the paper, there's no kind of smudging or anything like that. It writes like a dream, you know. There's a reason why that's the refills that's in these pens that come free with Hobonichi. Just beautiful to write with. Interestingly, despite the fact that it is quite wide, you know, it's actually probably thicker than the Coleto that I was complaining about, I actually don't mind writing in this. It is slightly bigger than is 100% comfortable, but I do have that I can switch to if needed, and that's only got 3 colours, but that's fine generally for most of my day-to-day colour coding that I do. But yeah, surprisingly comfortable to write with. Like I say, I generally use one of these at work because I do like to do colour coding according to kind of tasks, events, things that I'm waiting on. And then just having the pencil and eraser is really handy if I do, like I mentioned before, like just to take some quick notes or kind of sketch out something. This worked perfectly. The colour range that it comes in, there are so many different kinds. So this is like a bamboo version, but they do like collab, so there's definitely a peanuts range. I'm fairly certain I saw a Hello Kitty range when I was in Japan. So this is kind of a nice simple pen with, you know, some good colour selections, still pretty basic, but then you can kind of put some fun barrels with it and have some cool designs. In terms of the inks that you can put in, it's definitely not as many as you can get for the Coleto. It's still quite a slimmed down range. It's quite basic still, so I feel like this is a bit of a more towards the, you know, nice, almost professional pen, because the styling of it is very nice, but you can't go too wild with the colours inside. If you want wild colours or you want, you know, oranges and things, you are kind of looking at a Coleto, certainly in my experience from what I've seen. But you can get a few different refills in terms of point sizes and things like that, so you're not necessarily tied to the 0.5, which, as you can see, I mean, I should probably have put these next to each other, but it definitely, this is where you can kind of see that it's not a full ballpoint as far as I'm concerned, because although it's a 0.5, it's not super thick, and even in my weeks, that's what I use, and you know, that is the ink that's in here that most people use in their weeks, and that's quite a small grid. So yeah, although it looks like it should be quite thick because it's a 0.5, it is wonderful even on small planners and small pages. And I don't really have much more to say on the Jetstream. It's a really great pen. Like I said, there's a reason it comes with the Hobonichi. It's lovely to write with, it plays well on paper, it comes in, you know, a decent range of colours. There's not huge amounts, but there are a few different versions of kind of size of refill. In terms of like nib size, you can definitely get different ones, although do be careful because they do have quite, like, the first time I went to a store and I saw different Jetstream refills, there's quite a few different varieties and you have to get the right one for the right pen. So yeah, just definitely kind of take out the insert that's already in here. Insert, I don't know why I keep calling them insert. Take out the refill that's in here and just match up the code, because otherwise you will end up with, I mean, you might still be able to get it to work, but yeah, there's a few different ones, so definitely one to watch out for. But yeah, great pen for kind of if you do a lot of colour coding. So I do at work, I do at home with like my budget planning and stuff like that. So it's a great pen for that. It's, you know, it's a decent size, it packs a lot in here. Great for work. It means that I don't need to carry a load, so when I'm going to meetings or traveling for work, I can just take this, and you know, I don't need a load of other stuff. I don't need a highlighter because I've got, you know, I can underline something in red if I want to call something out instead of using a highlighter. Like, I've got the flexibility with that. So it's a great pen. Highly recommend. If you want something that will absolutely 100% work on all paper at all times, the Jetstream is the one to go for. If you want something with a few more fun colours that you might need to baby a little bit more, absolutely 100% Pilot Coleto. If you just want something small and compact, simple for work, the Platinum definitely works a treat. If you don't need the extra colours and you definitely want a smaller barrel size, this is the one to go for over the Jetstream. Finally, before I go, because I'm aware that this is now a really long video, I did just want to show you, this is the page from the blog post that I mentioned at the start. I just wanted to show you the kind of swatches that I did of those pens. So just in case there were any that you had seen that you were hoping that I would kind of have or call out or talk about. So the ones that I no longer have, the Pilot GP4, 1mm, far too thick, really didn't enjoy that. It didn't write particularly well. I think that was more of a hybrid ink rather than a full bullet point, so a bit like the Jetstream, but wasn't a fan, just far too thick. Tombow Reporter 4, as you can see, it didn't write very well. That was a kind of ballpoint, again quite thick at 0.7, but obviously thinner than the Pilot. But I was really disappointed by that, given that Tombow is quite a good brand for pens generally. Like, they're very well known. I was expecting something a bit more. The Livework Life in Pieces ballpoint, that was a nice pen, but it was a very thick barrel and you couldn't seemingly get refills for it, or none that I could find, so it felt like a bit of a waste, because part of the reason why I want a multi-pen is so I can then just kind of change it up and get refills and just kind of keep the barrel and just keep changing the ink. From a recycling perspective, I much prefer that than getting rid of a whole pen. The Platinum we've talked about. Pilot friction, I, like everybody in the planning community, I think, I did use a friction for a hot minute, but the writing, like, they don't write very well in my experience, or some of the colours do, some don't, and obviously you can erase it, and if you put it in the wrong temperature it will erase itself, so not a great pen for day-to-day planning. Pentel Sleazy is, so the Sleazy's are lovely little gel pens. They're very super thin, a bit like the Pilot G1, but the multi-pen for it, it's very similar to the Coleto. I think it felt a bit like a Coleto dupe in terms of, you know, the things you can change in it and the different colours and stuff like that, and the fact that it's a gel ink pen. But the quality of the barrel was terrible. Like, it would pop, the kind of ink that you chosen would kind of pop in and out every so often. Like, it wouldn't hold properly. It was a very cheap pen. I was very disappointed, because a Pentel Sleazy pen on its own is so nice to write with. That was not good. Uni style fit, so from uni, these were not good. These were very cheap feeling pens, didn't write very well, as I think you can probably see. Absolutely don't recommend, and the 0.38 was quite scratchy. And Livework, so Livework have a ballpoint and a gel pen in a multi-pen. Again, same issue really, you know, you can't get refills, or at that moment in time I couldn't find refills for it, but also it didn't write particularly well, so the gel did kind of skip a little bit. And that was it for all of my multi-pens, all the ones that I have tried in the past, the current ones that I use, my favourites, my least favourites. If there is one that I haven't tried or that I haven't mentioned today, please drop it in the comments, because I love trying them. I don't know what it is. I'm drawn to multi-pens. I think it's because of how efficient they are, packing so many different things in such a small kind of space. So yeah, if there is one that I haven't mentioned, please let me know and I will seek it out and try it and report back for science. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.